Hello, YouTube. Today I'm here, very excited to be here with a platinum top 50 realtor, Janet Wingrove. She is the owner, the creator of the Empire Real Estate team here in South Texas, which is definitely a place that has a very interesting real estate market based on everything that I've seen. And how are you doing today, Janet?
Hey, Joseph, thank you for having me on today. I am doing great. I just got done working, so selling real estate. But yeah, I'm doing very, very well. And thank you for the opportunity.
Of course, of course. I'm going to press record so we have a backup version here.
Okay.
And all right, thank you, Zoom. And next, let's get into it with the icebreaker question. So,
Okay.
also we're friends. We know each other from BNI. You're one of the top members in our BNI group, which is one of the top ones in South Texas. So definitely a high performer. And wanted to ask you just to break the ice, what clique or what group did you hang out with when you were in high school?
Okay, so in high school, I would say I was in a girl gang.
A girl
So
gang.
yeah, a girl gang. So I had a very close knit set of girlfriends that we grew up together. There was four to five of us, and we hung out all the time. We did the whole spend the night at each other's homes and things like that. And so I remained friends with them to this day. So yeah, I would say, and some of us played sports and the others didn't. So we were a good mix.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good mix of people. That's cool. And
Yeah,
how would you
yeah.
describe it, like through the high school stereotypes? Would it be like what movie, or how would you describe it?
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, I grew up in the 80s, so I
Okay.
would describe like Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Do you
I love
know?
that movie. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So Can't Buy Me Love, that movie. We had
yeah.
the big hair with the wings and the bangs and Coca-Cola gear. So it was fun. Yeah.
That's awesome. Very cool, very cool. Did not know that, but that's very cool.
Yeah, from the 80s for sure.
Awesome. So I thought we would start with your realtor journey, just to learn more about your journey as a realtor from, a beginning realtor to now, because I think you can learn a lot through that about real estate. And
Sure.
then I wanted to talk about advice for first time home buyers, because it's definitely been a tough ride for first time home buyers for the past year or two. Um,
Correct.
so the market's just flooded with people saying, I'll do 50,000 more and I'll pay with cash. And it's like tough for a first time buyer.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
then we're going to go from there to real estate investments. So like
Okay,
first time real estate investors and what they could be doing to get their foot in the, dip their toe in the pool or to get their foot in the door. And
sure.
then, yep, that's going to be our agenda for today. So let's start
Okay.
with, Janet, tell us about your first deal that you ever accomplished as a realtor.
Okay. Well, that was back in 2007. So I've been selling real estate for 15 years, and real estate has changed, right? From
Mhm.
back then to today. So my very first deal was actually with an investor, and I didn't know any better. So he was really hard on me. I remember trying to get stuff done for him, and I even remember crying in the broker's office because he was just very difficult. So
Yeah.
he used to like to seller finance his properties.
Yeah.
And what happened was he gave me two properties to list, and I did. And I actually found someone to buy one of his properties, but he didn't want to sell it to them because they had their own financing. He
Mhm.
wanted to seller finance the deal, but this buyer came qualified with like a conventional loan, right? So
Mhm.
he made the deal so difficult, and he ended up selling it to him anyway. But
Mhm.
his whole thing was he wanted to seller finance because he would make more money that way. But I made it through. And then once that was done, yeah, he was just really, really difficult. So that was my first deal, my introduction into real estate. So I had to get thick skin right away. It was not fun, but I did it.
Yeah. And for complete beginners, what does seller financing mean?
Okay, that is when the seller of the property does the financing for the buyer. So the buyer doesn't have to go out and get a loan with a bank.
Yeah.
The seller is actually going to finance the property for him. The seller the seller will charge the buyer an interest rate and things like that as well. So the
Oh,
seller acts as the bank.
oh, I see. Okay. Understood. Okay. And so that sounds like it was a tough deal to start. You had a demanding real estate investor who knew a lot about what was going on. What keeps you going? So, sometimes when you first do something that's really tough, people stop. Like first time I gambled, I lost money. So I think that's why
Yeah.
I'm not a gambler. What kept you going? Why did you keep going?
I just, at that point in my real estate career, I was doing real estate more. I want to say it was part-time for me. It was more about the money that I was making was our play, kind of like our play money, our vacation money. And so I only have one child. And so while my daughter was in school, I was working real estate. So for me, all that extra money that I was making was going into like our vacation fund.
Nice.
But what really keeps me going today, like my goals and everything have totally changed from back then, back when I first started. So today it's more about leaving a legacy behind of
Wow.
it, right, for my family. So,
Awesome.
yep.
That legacy. Wow. Yep. And we'll talk more about that because I know some cool stuff you were talking about during our money mastermind.
Yeah.
But okay, so first deal was a little bit tough. Tell us, what was your favorite deal that you've ever had?
Okay, I wrote this down. So one of my most favorite deals was I want to say it was maybe like 7 years ago. I sometimes I'll send out postcards in neighborhoods where I get several listings. And I happened to get a call from this older lady, just, a lot older than me. She was wanting to sell her house because she wanted to move to be near her friend, right? And so she called me off of a postcard that I sent. And I met with her a couple times, a little house in a cute area of San Antonio that sells really well. And the house needed some work. But it was still, somebody could walk in and they could live in the house, right? So of course we got several offers because at that point in time, the 150 range was super affordable in San Antonio. And so we got several offers. And after sitting with her, with my client, we reviewed the different offers. And one of them happened to be from a single mom. And she that's who she picked to buy her house. And she could have made more money picking one of the other offers, but it turned out that she herself was a single mom, and so she wanted to sell the house to somebody who was kind of in her situation when she first started. So it was like this mom who was also a teacher had saved her money. It was her and her young daughter. And my client was just so touched by who this buyer was that she says, that's who I'm selling my house to. So I thought it was really neat. But, for that client, it wasn't necessarily about the money. It was more about, the person in a situation. So to me, that's like one of my most favorite deals because that's not usually what happens. So
yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, it was a neat deal.
Awesome. Yep. Wanted to ask you, what did you learn from that deal?
Just that sometimes, it's not always about the bottom number or the bottom line. Sometimes it is about, the people, it's more about the people involved in the deal. And so when you're selling real estate, you got to think about those things. You look at it, of course, we look at the numbers, the net, like what we're going to net and things like that. But also as a realtor, you got to keep in mind that you are dealing with people, and this is the biggest asset they're going to buy or sell. And so sometimes there's a lot of emotion in it, and you got to put all that into perspective. And so to me, that was like, it was very, very a touching, heart pulling deal. So it was really neat.
That's awesome. Very cool.
Yeah.
And next, I wanted to ask you about creativity in deals that you've gotten done. Like, what is one of the most creative deals that you've ever worked on?
Well, I had a client who was also a friend that I met through one of my daughter's sports. And he was wanting to sell leave San Antonio to relocate to California. And he told me, Janet, I need to make $50,000 because that's what I need to be able to move out of San Antonio. So I went to his house, and of course the home, it needed a lot of work. And so what we did is we put together I put together some contractors to do the work on his house. And he said, he didn't have the money to pay for the contractors. So I looked at his equity, how much, he owed the bank, and really what the market value of the house is, at that time, to see if we could feasibly do the work and then bill it to close so that we could net that 50,000. And so we did that. We went in, we updated the house, did whatever we need to do so that we could sell it for a higher price. And we actually ended up making $52,000. And I remember it was $2,000 more than what he wanted. So it was my first deal that I ever did that way, where we do the repairs and we bill it to close. And it was hard, but we did it. And I was like, man, I can do this again. So now we offer that to our clients.
Wow.
So, but yeah, that was like the first stint at creating a deal that way. So it was fun. And the house looked beautiful when we were done with it.
Yeah, that's really cool. And then it transformed your business. So it's something now that you offer to people, which is
correct.
Amazing.
Yes.
Wow.
Very exciting stuff.
Awesome. And then final question regarding deals. What is the most rewarding deal that you've ever been a part of?
The most rewarding deal that I've ever been a part of. Well, I have to say that I met a family through social media, and they called me. They were actually living in another state, and so the mom called me and said she was going to buy a house for her son. And so I said, okay. So they drove into San Antonio, and I met with them, and we spent about 2 days looking for a house for her son. We ended up finding something. And then she told me, she says, Janet, I'm going to buy another house in a couple of years. And so I said, okay. So I just, stayed in touch with them over the years. And then sure enough, she came back. And at that point in time, I didn't realize, how well-to-do they were. And so she ended up buying this really, really big house the second time, right? So I thought, oh my gosh, who are these people? And so I got to know them over time. And it turns out that they themselves have been investing in properties for a long time, and they've made money in real estate. And so they've become friends, and I've learned a lot from them. So to me, that was a one way, I guess, of what I've learned was the reward of helping them. And what I learned about them as investors was also very rewarding and helpful to me. So
Wow. Yep.
So it's kind of cool.
That is cool. And now you're a real estate investor yourself, correct?
Yes. I'm trying to be like them.
That's so cool. And that's something that I think you should look for in a realtor, as someone who buys realty, that loves real estate as an asset class.
I do.
And buys it, right?
Yes, that's correct. I do.
Very cool. So for new realtors, I know you started the Empire Real Estate team. Shout out to Eddie, who's one of the members I know from there.
Yeah.
What
Eddie's
advice?
a rock star.
Oh yeah, he goes after it. What's your advice for new realtors? What advice would you get someone getting started? Maybe doesn't even have a deal yet.
Okay. I think the best advice I can give someone is to, like, real estate is definitely not easy, but you can do very, very well in real estate. So it's important to stay diligent and to work daily at it. And it's not an 8 to 5 job. You have to be willing to put, 10 to 12 hours per day in it, or doing whatever you need to. But most importantly is to find someone that can mentor you or guide you and tell you who's already, making good money at it, so that you can learn from them. I think that's super important, because real estate is hard, and it's hard to do it alone, and it can be done, don't get me wrong, but it just may take you longer. So, and that's a lesson I learned, Joseph, because I was by myself for a long time. And there was things I had to learn on my own that I feel like if I had done things a little differently, I would be in a different place today. So
awesome.
A mentor is really good.
Find that mentor, someone a few steps ahead of you, or someone who's
correct.
Awesome. I like it. And what mistakes do you see newer realtors making?
Mistakes that newer realtors make. I feel like they don't, well, one, a lot of them don't stick it out long enough because it really takes about 2 to 3 years to get going. And I remember trying to make $50,000 a year in real estate and what it took to do that. The other thing too is that, so I feel like the other thing that new realtors do is they focus a lot on chasing the next deal or the next lead, and instead of trying to build relationships with the people they know and working those relationships, because that's where your referrals are going to come from. So, and they're always hunting instead of nurturing. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. Too, in my business as well, I think one of the top metrics I look at is how many referrals am I getting to see how good of a job I'm doing.
Correct.
From existing clients, people who actually worked with me.
Yes,
so.
That's exactly. And that's the same thing with real estate. Real estate is about relationships and nurturing the relationships you have. And yes, you want to hunt for the next, buyer or seller, but you also want to make sure you're focused on your existing relationships and growing that database, because that's where the majority of your business is going to come from.
Awesome.
Yep.
And we talked a little bit about this. You said legacy is important to you. Do you want to expand on that a little bit? You said it inspires the work that you do as a real estate professional.
Okay. So for me, my focus in real estate shifted. I've always worked with investors as a realtor. And so at one point, something just triggered, like, what am I doing? I'm like, you gotta not just talk the talk, you gotta walk the walk. And then I started thinking about, as I got older, okay, I need retirement money. So where is that going to come from, right? And then I had, my father passed away a few years ago. And so I kind of looked to see, what he left behind at that point in time. And so a legacy for me would be once I'm done in this world, like what am I leaving behind for the family? Like, would they, and also for my retirement, like what is that going to look like? What is my residual income or passive income going to look like? And so that's kind of what I'm building. I want my family to be set and have that income coming in, like if I was still here.
Yep, that's awesome. Very cool.
Yeah.
And then what would you describe as the biggest lesson that you've learned from working as a realtor?
The biggest lesson that I've learned, I would say, when you start making good money as a realtor, it's so easy to spend that money. But when as your business grows and builds, you're actually your own company, right? And so you have to have money for your business expenses and for taxes, for your income taxes. So you can't spend everything you have. So one of the things I've learned is to really structure my real estate business as a true business and work with a CPA so that when it comes to tax time and doing my monthly expenses and things like that. So I always know how much money I need to have per month that I can spend or utilize or pay myself. And so the biggest thing was, at the beginning, I would spend whatever I was making. Well, at that, as the business grew, that had to stop. And so I learned that very quickly, especially to invest in properties. I needed to have more money. So,
awesome. Yeah, I learned a similar lesson as well. That's why I was smiling.
And you're young, so that's good. That's awesome.
let's pivot. So let's pivot to talking about your advice that you have for first-time home buyers. So no, we're not talking about real estate investors yet, but we do want to talk about that a little bit later.
Okay.
But when you think about a first-time home buyer, someone who has that dream of buying a home, what if you were in their shoes, if you were a first-time home buyer in today's market, what would you do? And if you could just expand a little bit on what today's market is like as well.
Okay, well, let me just tell you about the market today. So as we all know, and we've been seeing online or on TV, the inventory is low, but it's starting to creep up. We're starting to see more homes hit the market, which is good, right? But for several months, we were seeing the market challenges affect the buyer, where all buyers were having to overpay for or offer more for properties, right? So right now, I feel like we're going into a shift in the market. So we're still seeing multiple offers on properties, but there's not 30 offers. There might be like 5, or we're starting to see the properties sit on the market a little bit longer, which is an opportunity for a buyer because, perhaps in today, as the market's shifting, they don't have to pay for some of the fees that they were having to pay for a few months ago, so it's a good thing. The market's starting to shift. So I feel first-time buyers should always be prepared before they start shopping, and that's by getting qualified or pre-approved for a loan. And in order to do that, they need to know what they can afford, right? And so in order to do that, they need to have good credit is always a must. And if you have some sort of savings, that's a plus as well. And then also you want to partner up with a real estate agent who could advise you. And then also, a lender, get some advice from a lender to see where you stand. So those are the key things that are most important when you first start shopping for a home.
Awesome. So be prepared by getting pre-qualified, right? Figuring out how much you can buy.
Correct.
First, getting your credit to a certain range. What range would you say to get your credit into?
Well, I've seen, Joseph, buyers get pre-approved or pre-qualified as low as 580. But okay. I feel like a good credit score obviously is over 700. But if you're like about somewhere between 620 and 680, that's not bad either. Obviously, the higher your score, the better your interest rate is going to be, and the better loan that you're going to qualify for. So, I would make sure before you start shopping, have a lender look at that with you, and let's see where you're at. And then they'll be able to tell you if there's something on your credit you need to clean up, then they can help you with that or advise you on what to do with that.
Okay. So even if you have bad credit, you could talk to a lender right now and just kind of feel like these are some things I could fix, talk to you again in 6 months.
I get a lot of calls from buyers and they'll tell me, well, we think we're in the 500 range. And I'm like, okay, well, that's okay. So let's partner up with a lender and let's see where you're at. And then if it's low, then we'll make a plan so that you can get into a home, whether it be 6 months to a year. But it's something that we all work together to help that buyer accomplish that within a certain time frame.
Okay.
So,
yeah, that makes sense because you all want the deal to go through. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and sometimes it may not be right now, but it may be 3 months down the road, or it could be 6 months. But we won't know that until we actually talk to a lender and figure out where that person's at financially. So,
okay, so get the credit going. Figure out the loan that you can get.
Correct.
And once you can do that, then it's time to start shopping next. Would that be true?
Yes. No, you're right on track. Because once you do that and the lender gives us the thumbs up, then then we can start shopping. Once we know what that monthly budget and the overall sales price looks like, then yes, we can start shopping. But it's really important to do that first, because it doesn't make sense for us to go shop if we don't know what the numbers look like.
All right. And what are some mistakes that you see first-time home buyers making right now?
Gosh. A couple things that I've seen, and I've had it happen with a few clients is they get pre-approved or pre-qualified, and we're out shopping. We find the perfect home, and we're in contract doing everything, and then right before they were about to close, they run their credit again, and something comes up, and I'm like, what do you mean something? What happened? Well, they went and bought a car, or they went and bought furniture. And we always tell our clients, no big purchases while you're buying a home, or even right before you decide to buy a home. Let's not mess with your credit, right? So I think sometimes they get so excited, a buyer, that they're ready to furnish that house they're buying, and they forget that they still have to close. So that's kind of, or they change jobs. We're like, no, don't change jobs. Not in the middle of buying a house, because that's not going to help you with your to get your home closed or to get the loan closed. So so those are some of the mistakes.
Okay, so these big purchases, big life changes while in the middle, before you close, don't do that.
Right, correct.
How long does that take from when someone says, I want to buy this home, and their offer is accepted, to when they close? In general, how long does that take?
I would say about 30 days.
30
Once
days.
we put an offer in and it gets accepted, then as soon as everyone signs, we get that contract to the lender the next day, and they start working on it so that we can get it closed in about 30 days. Sometimes it could take a little bit longer, but I would say on average, we need about 30 days. So, which isn't bad, right?
Not too bad. Yeah. 30 days, you can hold off on buying those jet skis.
Yes, exactly.
Awesome. And what other mistakes do you see? Because I feel like right now, since it is still a seller's market, right? There may be some mistakes people are making. Is there anything else that you see?
Well, I think like right now, because just exactly like you said, being a seller's market, we have buyers who don't understand that when we're making offers, like right now, it's very difficult to put an offer in if it's under the list price, right? But because there's still multiple offer situation. And so sometimes we'll have buyers want to go really low on their offer. And we try to tell them, no, you can't do that right now, because right now the market is favorable to a seller. Now, if it was a buyer's market, then we would probably do that. So a lot of times, we have to let the buyer, because in the end, it's really, we're here to advise our clients. But if the buyer's set on doing that, then we'll do that. And then we have to let them kind of go through the punches before they figure it out. Okay, you were right. We need to listen. So, but so that's one of the things that I've seen is, sometimes the buyer will want to go too low. And right now in a seller's market, you can't do that. It's just it's not going to work. So,
yeah. Okay. And what advice would you give for self-employed individuals who write off a lot of their income? People like me.
Yeah, well, that's something I had to learn as well. So when I started buying investment properties, I realized that, as being self-employed, you have to show your profit and loss statement. You've got to show your revenue that you're making per month and stuff like that, right? So if you're trying to qualify for a loan, and you got to show your income tax for the 2 years, right? You got to show that you've been self-employed for at least 2 years making an income. So if you're trying to qualify for a house, but you're writing everything off and you're just being taxed on like 40,000, that's not gonna be beneficial to you to help you buy an investment property or a home, right? So you really need to be careful with that and seek the advice of your CPA, because obviously, I get it. We want to write everything off, but if your goal is to buy a property or a home, then you need to show enough income to be able to do that. So,
okay.
So don't write off too much.
Don't write off too much. Okay, awesome. Yeah. And it looks like we talked about people with low credit scores, but it sounds like it's, get it fixed, figure out what you need to get fixed on there, right? to
Right,
improve.
correct. And a lender can advise you about that. Sometimes it may take more than just a lender. Sometimes we may need to partner you with a credit repair specialist. But I always tell my clients, I would seek the advice of the lender first. And if it's something that you can work on with the lender, then do that instead of going to a credit repair company, because sometimes they may charge you a fee to do that, whereas a lender will not.
Okay.
So, and it could be an easy fix.
It could be something easy. Okay.
Yes.
And what advice would you have for people who just have a low income or no income?
Or no income. I've seen people who had who didn't make a lot of money qualify for a home. Now, granted, they didn't qualify. The amount wasn't extravagant, right? Because your mortgage payment, everything, it has to align with your income, right? So my advice to somebody like that is start small. You don't have to buy a house, but if you want to own something and build equity, maybe we look at a townhome, or maybe we look at a condo, buy that, stay in it for 5 years, build some equity, then we sell it. And then you can look into buying a home, but at least you own a property and you're not paying rent to somebody else. You're actually building equity. So you can, or the other thing too, is you can go on the outskirts of a big city, where home prices are lower. And then that way, you might be able to get more on the outskirts than you would if you're trying to buy inside the city.
Okay. That makes sense.
Mhm.
All right. And so what advantages do you see first-time home buyers having right now? Are there any advantages or programs or things that you get as a first-time
Well,
home
there
buyer?
are some programs that first-time buyers can look into, some loan programs, and there's also like down payment assistance, and that's kind of tricky because they go away, then they come back, they go away and come back. But so that's something that a lender can definitely advise you on. So if you're a first-time buyer and you don't have a lot of money saved, there are some down payment assistance programs. There's also programs for teachers, medical people, where the down payment, they will help you with the down payment. There's income limitations, and I believe there's limitations on family size and things like that. But also there's like, if you're a veteran and you don't have, it's zero down on a VA loan. Wow. Or you could do a USDA loan, which is also zero down. And that's typically going to be on a rural area where they're trying to develop it. So usually like those homes, those subdivisions will have a zero down payment.
Wow. So that's a powerful thing. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was going to say, and don't forget, FHA is only 3.5% down, which is not a lot. And now there is a conventional loan with 3% down as well.
Wow.
So, and there's down payment assistance programs. So
that conventional loan, could you tell me more about that 3% down? It sounds like a new thing.
I believe, I'm not a lender, but I believe it's been around for 2 or 3 years. And so I know the way I've used it in this market is especially to combat the appraisal waivers. So if my client makes an offer on a house and they're trying to, and they have a conventional loan and they're trying to put like 20% down. So I always ask the lender, hey, we want to cover the appraisal gap. If the house doesn't appraise and we've offered over asking, so would this person qualify to put less down? Would they qualify for the 3% conventional? And most of the time it's going to be yes, because obviously they've already qualified. So we've kind of used it that way. But okay. It's definitely, it's with somebody with good credit can definitely look into the conventional 3%. The only thing with that is you have primary mortgage insurance because you're not putting 20% down. So you want to factor that into your loan payment per month.
Yeah. And I've heard on that you could refinance later or something like that.
Yes, it usually takes about 2 years or so before the value of your property has to reach a certain point before you can actually refinance. But a lot of people are doing that is, they get in, especially when we had the low interest rates, and we're getting in with the lower rates so that they can, and then eventually they'll refinance it out.
That's awesome. Yep. Now you're speaking my language, financial planning language.
There you go.
I love it. So we've got FHA, USDA, which can help people with low income as well, because you're on the outskirts anyway, and you put 0% down.
Right. And those USDA typically has income limitations, and they're based on like family size as well. Like if it's one person, I forgot what the income cap is, but it could be like a family of two making this amount. But again, it's specific to certain areas.
Okay, awesome. And I put it in the title. I hate to talk about it in the middle, but what's your best advice for first-time homebuyers right now? What would be your best advice?
The best advice is not to give up, is to keep looking, even though the market is super tight, is just to keep looking and stay diligent, partner up with a good real estate agent, get pre-qualified before you actually start shopping, and just keep at it, because eventually you're, put together a good, strong offer. It'll hit. Eventually your offer will be the one that's chosen. Yep. So just keep going.
Don't give up. I love it.
Yeah. It can be done.
Awesome. And let's see here. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about your real estate journey, and then we'll pivot into your advice for first-time real estate investors.
Okay.
What was your first real estate investment property? Well, tell us about the story of your first real estate investment property that you bought.
It was years ago. So the very first time that I really decided to dive into it was when my daughter was going away to college. I wanted to make sure I didn't want to pay rent to somebody else. So I wanted to buy a property and have her teammates pay me rent. And so that's what I did. I shopped around and was able to find a nice condo. We rehabbed it, and then we charged rent to her teammates, and actually it paid for itself. So
wow.
Yeah, so it was really good.
Yeah.
For those people that have kids going to college, that's something like to think about.
Yep. That's a cool idea. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see here. What was your inspiration for starting the Empire Real Estate team? Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. So I've been in real estate for a long time, and I feel like there's a lot of things that I learned over the years that I could pass on to other people or other agents. But I also, I'm in a point in my business where I want to leverage what I'm doing. So by building a team, I'm able to do that, right? But I feel that I want to help other agents get to a point where I'm at faster than what I did. And so that's kind of what the inspiration is. Plus also, I want them to learn how to not only sell real estate, but build a business in real estate, but make money on real estate. And because most agents, they just sell, and don't put their money back into real estate. And so that's kind of what Empire is, to build your own empire. And so that's kind of where the name came from. And then just helping the agents do the same thing and get there quicker than what I did. So, but yeah, that's kind of what the inspiration is for Empire.
Cool.
Yeah.
And that's a fairly new thing. What type of person would you say is like a good fit for the culture of the Empire Real Estate team?
Oh man, that's a good question. Cause we're very, it's not for everybody, right? We want people who have the same work ethic that we do, who have the same vision that we have for their real estate business. And not everybody wants to do real estate this way, but it takes a lot of work and a lot of effort, but the rewards are really, really good. And so we want someone who wants to learn, who wants to be in real estate for the long haul, not a short, not just for a couple of years, because it does take time to build a business, but who shares the vision that we share, and who wants to learn how to make money, not only selling, but also investing in real estate. So
That's cool. It's like a perfect fit, right? If you believe in real estate, you want to be buying it up.
yes, exactly.
That's awesome. I've always heard this idea that you've seen all types of markets, right?
Uh-huh.
From 2007, which was obviously a crazy year for real estate. That was a real estate bubble.
Yes.
Till now.
Yeah.
And kind of heard this idea before from people who know a lot about real estate, that you can make money in any market. And I've heard it from people who know a lot about the stock market too. People who know a lot about any market, they say you can make money in any market if you know what you're doing.
Correct.
What are the skills that make it possible to find deals that others do not see, in your opinion?
Well, I think you're absolutely right, Joseph. I think, real estate's always going to be there. People are always going to need a place to live. So you just have to know, you have to adapt to what the market is doing at that time, right? And one thing that I can say is, with experience, like, even though the market has its challenges, we're still producing, we're still selling, right? And so I think it's some of the skills, I guess, that you have to have is, I mean, you got to know how to do your job. For one, you have to be very good at what you're doing, and to find those deals that other people aren't getting. So, like, for example, some of the things that I do is I work with attorneys.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times they'll bring me listings that are estates that, where someone has died, or a family member passed away, and now they have the family has a house that needs to be sold. So real estate attorneys. And then also we call wholesalers out there that, pick up deals and they'll call me and they'll say, hey, I have this coming up. Do you have a buyer for it? So that's another way I find deals. Another way is I do a lot of marketing on social media about about investing. And so, I'll get calls from people who have properties that they need to sell, right away. And so I'll call my investors out to take a look at them, and a lot of networking and building relationships with people that are in that arena, that get deals all the time. So it can be done. It can, especially in this market, a lot of agents that are in that area, we were all trying to find off-market deals. So but yeah, so that those are just some of the ways to get those deals that are out there.
I like it. So it boils down to your connections with people who know what's going on
in
their area of the market, like real estate attorneys, people who kind of have their pulse on the market.
Correct. That is exactly right. It's all about connections.
I love it. Okay. And what are the traits of a great real estate investor?
The traits. Well, a good real estate investor is, besides experience, they really know how to read the numbers, so that they know what they have to do to make a profit. And so they work backwards, saying, the market value after this home is fixed up is going to be this, my expenses are this, and then this is what it's going to cost me to get, this property. So they know how to figure out, I guess, their margins. That's one thing. And then also they have their connections with their contractors already. So they can move quickly through the deal. And then they have, lenders that they work with. So they're ready as soon as they find that deal, they're ready to go, whether they're paying cash or using hard money. So we're not having to figure out where they're going to get the money, right? If they find the house, they're ready, they have it. And then, of course, they work with agents who also work in that area of real estate, who work with investors. So and then I love investors that do good quality flips, if that's what they want to do. So they have the good contractors.
Awesome. So these good quality flips and good contractors, they're connected as well. Sounds
Correct.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. And then final question on this, and then we're going to talk about advice for people who want to get into first-time real estate investment, which we've covered some of it because I sense that, getting qualified and stuff like that is going to be the basics of it, right?
Yeah.
Who has been your biggest inspiration or hero when it comes to like real estate investment?
And you know him too, Dr. Dan.
Oh,
He's
yes, yes.
Yeah, Daniel Murray. I love what he does. He's like no holds bar, and he like started investing at a very young age. So I've kind of watched him, and we do deals together, which is kind of cool. So he's very inspiring because he's very quick and he has like multiple deals going. So he's somebody that I watch all the time. And then I have another one, Joe Cano, that I've been working with him since 2008, and he's very creative when it comes to his properties. So I've learned a lot from him about flipping homes, buying and holding, working with Section 8 renters. That's another way to make money. Building duplexes. So I've learned stuff from him as well. So I would say, and then also Joe Peltier, he's another one that you remember Joe, that I've kind of watched. His arena he's more into the seller financing. So I've kind of learned a little bit from him as well. But I would say probably those three are the ones that if I have an investing question, I can call them, or I just kind of watch them because we're always doing deals together. And so I kind of learn a lot from them. So about the process and things.
That's a powerful side effect of it's a powerful part of the work that you do, is that you're learning so much from these people who are doing, quality flips, people who are doing cool stuff. And, seller financing, all these different ways of making money. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy, Joseph. There is a lot of ways to make money in real estate.
I like it.
It's awesome.
It is. Yeah. And people always need a place to live. It's like the very fundamental thing.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I was going to ask about the steps that first-time home investment property people, well, let's talk now about first-time investors, right? What are some mistakes that you see first-time real estate investors making?
Some mistakes. Some of the investors I work with, they're very quick. Like as soon as they hear about a property, they're ready to jump on it, right? So they'll drive by the property, or they'll call, say, hey Janet, can we go take a look at it this afternoon? And I'm like, okay, let's go. And so I guess for some of the people who are just getting into investing, a lot of times they take their time, and you have to be ready to go. So it's not being ready to pull the trigger on a property that you really want.
Yeah.
And then also not moving quick enough, because just like there's a lot of buyers, regular buyers out there, traditional buyers, there's also a lot of investors. And so you just have to be ready to put your deal in as soon as you find out about a property, because it won't sit on the market very long.
Yeah. So you got to be quick to act. You see something and it's good. Don't be like, oh, let me think about it for 2 weeks. Be like,
there's no way. Nope, not at all.
Would that have worked back in like 2007? Waiting? Kind of a weird question, I know, but the market was very different back then.
It was, but you know what? Like 2008 is when we had the big mortgage crash. So I think investors have always been around, but I think it's probably the same. Like right now, when people are kind of, I'm hearing right now for investors, it's like the perfect time to buy, because even though interest rates are going up, people, it's just the best time for an investor to jump in the market, because people are going to be scared to buy, and they're going to need places to rent. So this is a good time to maybe do buy and hold properties.
Yeah. Hey, I like that. Okay. So right now is an opportunity, and it's cool how investors can see that, and then kind of see the fear in the general people, right? And it's it creates an opportunity where a lot of, because you hear what I believe, let me go back, is a lot of like contrarian investing, which is like you want to buy when people are fearful, right? And you kind of what Warren Buffett says, you want to sell when people are greedy. So it's kind of going along those lines and being like, well, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say it's like stocks, right? You want to
Yeah.
buy when stocks are low, right? And you want to buy more stocks, right? And hang on to them for the long term. And it's kind of like real estate. You want to get in when people are just like you said, like when people are fearful because they're not ready to buy. And so it's definitely a good time because people are going to need a place to live. And just like home prices are appreciating, so our rental rates are appreciating. So you could definitely benefit from buying an investment property right now.
Yeah, and rents are going up. I hear from people they're going way up.
Yes, they are very high.
Which is an opportunity, right? That's something you could see as a negative, or you could be like, that's an opportunity if I can conquer this fear and get a property.
Correct. That is correct.
That's good. I think what I was trying to say, but I was all over the place. My mind was like,
it's okay.
Awesome. That's cool. And how do you decide on a type of property? So a flip, right, would be where you fix something up a little bit, or you fix it to a certain extent and then increase the value of the property and then sell it real quickly. Buy and hold is, of course, you just buy it and hold it for a long time. And short-term rentals like Airbnb, VRBO stuff.
Right.
How do you choose that?
Well, I think it depends on the goal of the investor, right? What they want to do. I know that, like for myself, I have long-term rentals, and that's because my cash flow, I am cash flowing, but maybe my mortgage payment on it is higher. But then, like one of the properties, I'm fixing to do a short-term rental because I have such a low mortgage payment on it that my profit margin, my cash flow on it is will be a lot greater instead of me renting it long-term. And then, so I think really it depends on the goal for the investor. If they're looking for cash flow, then maybe they buy something, flip it, so they get the bigger return, and then take that money and use it for the next property. So yeah. And then, if it, like for me, another goal that I have is to have so many rentals, because that's my retirement money. And I know how many I need in order to be able to still make money that I'm used to making today. Right. Yeah. So for me, like buy and hold is more important to me than necessarily doing a flip.
Okay. Because you're buying that income, basically that income coming in.
Yes. Yeah. That I can have in building equity over time. So
I love it. Yep. That's another thing you don't think about. The value of the properties are rising as well in general over the long term.
That's correct. That is correct. Yep. So
awesome. Very cool. And I always hear about house hacking.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what that is. Explain it to me.
I'm trying to do that in Dallas. So my daughter's moving to Dallas, and I'm looking for a property that we can probably a duplex where she can live on one side and then rent the other side and have the rent cover the mortgage payment. So that's sense house hacking. And you could do it, I guess, with like a house. If you buy a house, you live in it, and then you rent, the rooms out or whatever, then you have the rent coming in from those covering the mortgage payment. So that's what house hacking is.
Okay. Very cool. So basically having other people pay for your
yes.
property.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But you're living on the property.
I also hear about like stay in a house for 1 or 2 years and then you can move. How does that work? How do investors do that? Is there like some type of benefit you get for staying for a certain amount of time and then moving?
Well, you can do that. I know because of the appreciation and you've built equity. So you can move like within 2 years or whatever. But don't forget, you also have to pay capital gains. And so if it's not your primary residence, then and it's an investment property, then there's actually, you have to account for that as well. But people do it all the time. Mm-hmm. So, but 2 years is the number of years that I guess most people tend to stay in a house. So,
okay. Awesome. And what questions should people ask their realtor?
What questions should they ask the realtor?
Yeah, especially investors. Yeah.
I guess about experience, like how many years they've been selling real estate, and then if what their niche is, if they've been working with, do they work with investors? Do they invest in properties themselves? Those are a few of the questions, and I guess they can ask them too, like, how do they find properties for their investors? That's another way. And then another good question is, like, how many investors do you work with?
Yeah.
Because if you have an agent that works with, X amount of investors, then you may not be at the top of their list. So as an investor, you kind of want to build a relationship with a realtor where you are at the top of their list. I think that's really important, where you get first dibs at the properties that realtor is getting.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay.
Mhm.
And now let's just talk about very basics, right? You want to be able to look at a property if you're a good investor, right? And say
Mhm.
this property is underpriced, or I could see this property appreciate in value. How do you
Right.
do that? What do you look at to figure that out?
Okay. Well, you can, what I do and the way I help my clients that are buying properties is, so you can always tell when that a property is priced below market. Well, one, if you're getting them from the MLS, a lot of times it's just the terms to buy that property are usually either cash or conventional, right? And so most of the time that means the property won't pass other loan type guidelines. And so we know that it probably needs to be fixed up, right? So, and so that's one way, but the other way would be, if you get a property from a wholesaler and things like that. But really, when you do get your eyes on a property like that, you want to find out what the true market value is after the property has been fixed up. So if I was to go in and fix this property up and get it ready for sale, what is that market value going to look like, right? So you want to get that number, and then you want to work backwards. You want to say, okay, if the house is worth $250 and it's going to cost me $50,000 to get it up to market value, and then you want to look at the cost of what is of like your closing fees and things like that, and then see what the house is actually priced to sell at right now, and see if there's enough margin for you to make that 50 or whatever that profit is that you want to make. So you work backwards. Does that make sense?
It does. You work backwards from the fully fixed end result that you want, and you see if there's a room for a profit in there, working backwards.
Yes, correct. After you take away all your expenses.
Oftentimes, is there some element of fixing up a house that will create that profit?
Some element, like as far as like what you put in it?
Fixing stuff, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the nicer the house is going to be, then from the flooring to the fixtures to the granite countertops. But the big thing is the components, like doing the new roof or checking out the AC, checking out the plumbing, and making sure all that's good. Because even though you fixed a house up and cosmetically it looks really pretty, you can't forget about the big items that are going to cost you. If a buyer comes in and they have a loan to purchase a house, or they're using financing, then those are things that could cost you money if you don't take care of them as an investor. So you want to look at those things too, not just the cosmetic stuff.
Okay. Definitely. That was of course. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And what would you say is your best advice for first-time real estate investors or people thinking about getting into real estate investment?
I guess a good thing is to just really study the market, or maybe collaborate or get an investor, or work with an investor, or find a mentor in that area that you can learn from, like, maybe shadow them as they're doing a flip or something like that. And you also want to have your team in place, right? So you can't just go into the investing arena and not know who's going to do the work on your house. You know how you're going to pay for that flip. So you have to have all those things in place. You have to have a team together. And you want a good, solid team. You don't want to get just Joe Schmo AC guy, right? You want reputable people that are going to do the work correctly for you. And because when you turn that house over to the buyer, you want all your T's crossed and all your I's dotted. because it's so important for the inspection.
Yep. Okay. So I hear great real estate investors, quick to act, right?
Mhm.
Well connected, and they surround themselves with people who can like get things done.
Correct. That is
Okay.
absolutely correct.
Awesome. Perfect. And I always like to ask deep questions, but I want to respect your time. So I'll just ask you one deep question.
Okay. Uh-oh.
Janet, what's a pivotal moment in your life that has shaped how you see the world today?
A pivotal moment in my life. Okay, let me think. So I guess like a few years back, there was a couple things going on with my family, and so I think it really changed the way I was doing business, and so I really wanted to make sure that if something were to happen to me, that I would have a business that would sustain itself. And so I would say that that's probably one of the things that, and then I think also with all the things going on, like in the world today, like all the violence and things like that, it's like, I don't know, Joseph, it's just hard. It's like, you really got to take care of your family, I think, and like make that a priority. And it seems to be, because I've been around for a while, that, things, I don't know if it's because I'm older or whatever, but things seem to be getting harder, I guess, in the world. And so you just got to take care of the people around you, right?
Yep. Take care of it. Yeah. It's not a solo journey, right? You got to take care of the people around you, help people.
And that is so true, because one thing I've learned about business is if you surround yourself with good people and people that think like you and, want to see you succeed, then that's very helpful to your business as well. And then of course you become good friends. So,
yep.
And you want to take care of them. Like I want to take care of you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
And can I ask one more question? Two more questions.
Sure.
All right.
Okay.
I start with one and then I go to two, but it will be two. What's something that that you think a lot of other people in the world do not know?
I wrote that down. I know real estate.
I love it.
I do know that. And you know what? I think I'm good at it.
Yeah.
I started out like, I guess I was kind of a part-time agent for a while. And then something just clicked and said, man, I need to stop playing real estate. And I want to this is what I want. This is how much money I want to make. This is, what I want to do. So I don't know what it was, like the light bulb went off and it just changed. And it was like, I hit the ground, put my nose down and just focused and just really revamped my business. So if there's one thing I can do, I can sell real estate.
I love that. Yep.
Yeah.
Platinum top 50, right? Doesn't happen for everybody. That's a high level thing.
No, it's awesome.
All right. Final question. If you could leave the audience with one final message for this live stream, what would that message be?
One final message, what would it be? I guess not to give up. Just set a goal, work on it daily, write it down, visualize it, and do not give up until you make it.
Wow. I love it. Thank you, Janet.
Thanks, Joseph. Thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. Always want to talk to interesting people, and you definitely are one. And I will stop the live stream. Let's see. It's always awkward when I stop it, but I think this time it should work. Okay. Bye, YouTube. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe for more and also to like it so it can reach more people who are looking to buy their first home. And if you know anyone who's looking to buy their first home or become a real estate investor, send it their way so they can learn these skills, because it really starts first in the mind. You have to know what you're doing before you get into it, because I'm sure if you get into real estate investing knowing nothing, that could cause a lot of trouble.
You could lose some money. We don't want that.
A lot of money. So big investment. You want to surround yourself with the right people like Janet Wingrove, who are well-connected, know what they're doing, and are real estate investors themselves. And awesome. Thanks for watching.